Inspired by reports of abandoned hospitals around the world, where former employees, security guards, and urban explorers have described strange sounds, unexplained shadows, and unsettling experiences. While the characters and specific events in this story are fictional, many abandoned medical buildings have become the source of mysterious, real-life legends. For nearly 35 years, Michael Turner worked as an emergency medical technician. He'd responded to thousands of accidents, fires, and medical emergencies. His career had taught him to stay calm under pressure and never let fear influence his decisions. Even after retiring, he believed every strange story had a logical explanation. One autumn afternoon, an old friend named Richard called him with an unusual request. An abandoned hospital on the edge of town was scheduled for demolition within a week before construction crews arrived. Local officials wanted someone familiar with hospital layouts to help inspect the building for hazardous materials and forgotten medical records. Michael agreed without hesitation. The hospital, known as St. Augustine Medical Center, had closed nearly 25 years earlier after a newer facility replaced it. Since then, nature had slowly reclaimed the property. Thick vines climbed the cracked brick walls, broken windows reflected the gray sky, and rusted ambulances still sat in the overgrown parking lot. As Michael stepped through the front entrance, a cold draft swept through the empty lobby. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts. Old wheelchairs stood abandoned near the reception desk. Torn medical charts covered the floor, and faded signs still pointed towards surgery, intensive care, and radiology. Richard handed Michael a flashlight. "We'll split up," he suggested. "Meet back here in an hour." Michael nodded and walked alone down the eastern hallway. The silence inside the hospital felt unnatural. Even abandoned buildings usually echoed with birds, insects, or distant traffic. This place seemed completely lifeless. His flashlight revealed peeling paint, broken ceiling tiles, and rows of empty patient rooms. Most had been stripped years earlier. One room, however, looked untouched. A hospital bed remained neatly made despite decades of abandonment. The blanket appeared freshly folded. Michael frowned. Someone must have entered recently. He photographed the room and continued walking. As he reached the old intensive care unit, he heard something unexpected. Beep, beep, beep. The unmistakable sound of a heart monitor echoed through the darkness. He froze. The hospital had no electricity. The sound stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Michael carefully searched every room nearby. Nothing. No equipment. No batteries. No explanation. He convinced himself the sound had come from outside. Still, an uncomfortable feeling settled in his mind. Half an hour later, he entered the underground level where the hospital's morgue had once operated. The air became noticeably colder. His flashlight flickered several times before returning to normal. Long metal storage drawers lined one wall. Most were partially open. As he walked past them, one drawer slowly slid outward with a loud scraping sound. Michael immediately stepped back. He inspected the rails. The drawer was heavily rusted. It should have required significant force to move, yet it had opened by itself. He closed it firmly and continued deeper into the basement. Then he heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, following him. He turned around instantly. No one stood behind him. The footsteps stopped. He resumed walking. Again they returned. Step, step, step. Each time he stopped, they stopped. His years of emergency work had taught him to stay rational. Perhaps loose pipes expanded in the cold. Perhaps animals moved above the ceiling. Yet the rhythm sounded exactly like human footsteps. Michael radioed Richard. Only static answered. No voice. No signal. He decided to return upstairs. While climbing the staircase, he noticed something strange. Fresh, muddy footprints covered the dusty steps. They led upward. He examined them carefully. Only one set. No matching prints returned downward. Someone or something had walked upstairs but never come back. Michael followed them. The trail ended outside the old operating theater. The large surgical doors stood slightly open. He pushed them wider. Inside, moonlight streamed through a shattered skylight. An operating table remained in the center of the room. Old surgical lights hung silently overhead. Everything appeared frozen in time. Suddenly, one overhead light began to sway. There was no wind, no open windows nearby. The heavy metal fixture moved slowly from side to side. Michael watched in complete silence. Then he heard a woman's voice, soft, barely above a whisper. "Help me." He spun around. The room was empty. Again the voice came. "Please." His flashlight beam crossed every corner. Nothing. Then, without warning, the operating room doors slammed shut. The sound echoed through the entire hospital. Michael rushed forward and pulled the handles. The doors refused to move. He pushed harder. Still nothing. Moments later, they slowly opened on their own. Outside stood Richard. "You've been in there almost 2 hours," Richard said nervously. Michael looked at his watch. It showed only 35 minutes. Neither man could explain the missing time. Together, they finished the inspection as quickly as possible. Neither spoke much during the drive home. The following week, demolition crews arrived before sunrise. Workers began tearing down the oldest section first. While removing debris beneath the operating theater, they made an unexpected discovery. Behind a sealed concrete wall, crews uncovered a forgotten storage room containing dozens of patient files, dating back nearly 50 years. Among the documents was a maintenance report describing repeated electrical failures in the intensive care unit. One handwritten note caught everyone's attention. It had been written by a night supervisor shortly before the hospital permanently closed. The note read, "Several staff members continue reporting unexplained heart monitor sounds, footsteps in the basement, and voices calling for help inside. Operating room 3. Multiple inspections. Found no source. Recommend closing the area permanently until further investigation." No investigation was ever completed. The hospital closed only months later. Michael read the report several times. It described the exact experiences he had encountered decades afterward. No one could explain how the same unexplained events had been recorded long before the building was abandoned. The demolition finished within days. Today, a public park stands where St. Augustine Medical Center once overlooked the town. Children laugh where ambulances once parked. Families walk across peaceful green fields. Yet longtime residents still remember the stories connected to the old hospital. Construction workers, who participated in the demolition, rarely discussed that final week. Several admitted they occasionally heard faint monitor beeps coming from empty sections of the building before they were destroyed. Others refused to enter the basement alone after sunset. Michael never claimed the hospital had been haunted. He simply carried copies of the old maintenance report wherever he gave lectures on emergency service history. At the end of every presentation, someone always asked whether he believed in ghosts. He always gave the same answer. "I don't know what was inside that hospital," he said quietly. "But whatever those nurses heard 50 years ago, I heard exactly the same thing." To this day, no one has found a logical explanation.